Hey friends, it's Madi with Sound Living. Today we're going to be getting into wellness fatigue. It's the start of a new year. We're all struggling with the overwhelming amount of wellness advice that we get everywhere. We don't know which way to turn. So today we're going to talk about habit stacking and how that is a powerful tool to combat wellness fatigue. So stick around.
This is a Soak podcast.
Hey, I'm Madi, and this is Sound Living, a space for real conversations about intentional living, wellness, and personal growth. Here, we dive into practical tools, mindset shifts, and the little changes that make a big impact. Whether you're looking to create balance, build better habits, or just feel more in tune with yourself, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. So today we're talking about wellness fatigue. What is wellness fatigue? So, at the start of every year, whenever you are setting your goals for the year, you're looking for different supplements to take, different workouts to try, different diets to go on, different podcasts to listen to, different books to read. And then you just get exhausted. And slowly but surely, all of those new habits kind of die off and you find yourself back to exactly where you started December 31st. So that is a consequence of wellness fatigue. And, in today's day and age, there's so much at our fingertips that we feel this responsibility and this obligation to find the very best thing and to follow it because, all of us, me and you, we want to be the best version of ourselves. And sometimes it gets exhausting. And what we don't account for is that time is our most valuable resource. And we end up using a lot of our time trying to figure out, how can I make these massive changes? How can I accomplish the goals that I want to accomplish? And how can I be the person that I want to be for myself and for my family? And we'll talk more about that later. But how can we implement small micro changes and micro habits that, if applied at the beginning of the year, can completely shift your trajectory for the rest of the year. And you'll look back in December again saying, wow, with those small micro changes, here's what I've accomplished. So today we really want to talk about the power of habit stacking and implementing these small micro changes to really set ourselves up for a great year. So we don't want wellness to feel like a chore. We want it to be something that is empowering and energizing because that's why we're doing it, right? So whenever we're thinking about habits that we can create, it's good to layer them on top of things that you're already doing. So it could be something like, putting on a frequency while you're in the car with your kids, or it could be getting in your stretches while you're putting your kids to bed at night, or just really anything that you're already doing. What can you layer on top of that would create this kind of micro habit? So we've heard a lot of people talk about habit stacking as a way to implement wellness. But when I think of it, I just think of what am I already doing that I can layer something new and something that's going to raise my energy on top of. So for example, if there's a call where I know I don't need to be on camera, I don't need to be screen sharing, I'm going to take that call on a walk and I'm going to get my steps in. If I am in the car with my daughter and we're on our way to school, I'm going to have her repeat mindful intentions with me. I am blessed. I am favored. And she's starting to, carry these things with her throughout her day. So I'm positively impacting my family. I'm filling my cup and I'm filling my family's cup with positive things throughout the day so that in the evenings, we can actually rest and we can spend time together and we can be really intentional with our time. I've said it before and I'll say it again, time is our only unrenewable resource. So it's really important to be intentional with time. And I think a lot of people are going to go into 2025 or are going into 2025 thinking about their time. So habit stacking really allows us to optimize our time. And that's where it's really powerful. Because you save time and you're energizing yourself. You're making yourself feel better. You're filling your cup so that you can be impactful. And as a mother, as a professional, as a spouse, just, any of us who are busy, it is so important to, we've all heard the analogy, put your oxygen mask on first. And then you can, turn and help your children. And you can't do that. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't put on someone else's oxygen mask if you're about to pass out yourself. And I think that that's something that we'll all just really go into 2025 realizing. And I think habit stacking is going to be monumental for people, just having these small micro changes that we can implement and just, optimize our days and our year. Okay, so let's get into habit stacking. What is it exactly, and how can you apply it to your life? So, habit stacking works best whenever you layer it onto things that you're already doing. So, say you're in the car with your kids and you drive your kids to school every morning. So, what can you do to fully optimize that time in the car together? So, something that we started doing in our family is that on our way to school, whenever we're driving our daughter, we start doing our prayers or our mindful intentions, and we'll have her repeat things back to us like, I am blessed, I am favored, I am kind, I am smart. And it really just sets the tone, and it brings us together as a family. It's something that we can do in lieu of listening to music or, throwing the iPads to the kids in the back, just really optimizing that, short drive that we have together. And it really just, it shifts the mindset of even me. I'm doing this for the benefit of my daughter, but I'm also doing it for the benefit of myself. And I go into my day with more grace, with more compassion, and with more confidence. And it's kind of like almost a mini meditation. And you go into your day thinking, okay, I am confident, I am smart, I am kind, I am a great friend, a great wife, a great daughter. And it really impacts your entire day off of something that's just really a very small micro change. So that's the power of habit stacking. And we're going to get into more examples too. So here's a few things that I do, a few habit stacks that I've implemented in my life over the past year. One of them, if I'm on a call, like a work call, and I know I don't have to be on camera, I'm not going to be screen sharing, I'll utilize that time, which is usually around 45 minutes to sometimes an hour and a half, and I'll just get outside and I'll start walking. We're really lucky that we live right by 3 ponds, so I can go all the way around. And, I'm spending that time either way on this phone call, but what can I layer on top of it that's going to help fill my cup too? Another thing that I like to do is whenever my husband and I are catching up on the weekend and our daughter's taking her nap, hopefully, is that we'll have a little family meeting, like a 10-minute powwow. And instead of, trying to see how much progress we made this week, we ask each other what went well for you this week. And it's such a simple question, but if you make time to do this, especially with your spouse or your partner or even a business partner, it's an incredible practice phrasing it this way. What went well this week? You find yourself practicing gratitude and reflecting on the things that went well. And as we all know, what you think about, you bring about. So talking about and focusing on what went well during the week actually brings more wellness to your week because it comes to the forefront of your mind and you start attracting more and more of that. You're being mindful of that. You don't get stuck in any type of negative rumination. So, and it can be something small too. It doesn't have to be a big thing. My husband and I were talking the other week and we were, going through our what went well. And I had mentioned to him, those few minutes that we spent in the car doing the mindful intentions, I found myself having a lot more grace and compassion, not only with myself, but with our daughter, Annie. I was able to really hold my emotions and hold my space at the end of the day while she was going through something that was pretty emotional. And I was able to be there for her in a way that, had I not been mindful, had I gone, as Joe Dispenza would say, unconscious, I might have just reacted negatively and with frustration and really, mirrored those emotions back to her, which in turn, it kind of turns into this vicious loop and vicious cycle. And that's not just the case with children. That's the case with coworkers, parents, friends. When you're driving down the road, you can model kindness in a way. And I've done this before. There was an instance where I think I was in the Starbucks drive-thru or something, and I genuinely accidentally cut this woman off into line, and she starts flipping out behind me. She's throwing hands. And I said, you know what? This was a genuine accident. I feel really bad. I know that I have, I've skewed her morning. So I got out of my car and I said, ma'am, I am so sorry. I genuinely did not mean to. I'm going to buy your breakfast. I am so sorry. I got back in my car. I looked in my rearview mirror and she had this huge smile on her face. I had completely changed her day because I had started my morning mindfully. And it's a wave. It goes out to the entire, it's your city, your state, and it really impacts everyone, especially how connected we are these days with social media. I mean, the energy that you put out, you you get back. And you have the power to really just raise the vibration of the entire world, it's truly wonderful. Okay, so why does habit stacking work? Basically, it's as simple as whenever you attach a new easy habit to something that you're already doing, like driving your kid to school, it tends to kind of stick together like glue, and your body starts to associate and your mind starts to associate your routine activity with this new habit. So that's kind of why it works and why people find success with implementing and with keeping their new wellness not really goals, but I guess their wellness activities that they're implementing into their life. Whenever you stick them on top of something that you're already doing, it just ends up going really well. An analogy that I heard my dad talk about the other day was that if he was talking to a pilot, I think, and they were talking about the power of starting small. And this goes hand in hand with these micro habits that we're talking about in the habit stacking. So the power of starting small, he's talking to this pilot, and the pilot was saying that if he changes his coordinates just so very slightly, just off by a percent, and I'm not a pilot, so forgive me if I butchered this, but if he makes a micro change to his coordinates, he'll end up in an entirely different city. So if we take that and we think about our year, if we think about 2025, what kinds of small, easy micro habit can you implement that will completely change your trajectory and your course of your entire life, just like with the airplane? You'll end up in a completely different state of mind. So wellness fatigue. This is something that a lot of people are talking about. And I think that we've probably all experienced it in some way or another. It's absolutely exhausting. With all of the knowledge that we have at our fingertips, with all of the experts that are online, we feel an obligation and a responsibility, and especially if you're a mom or if you're a caregiver in some capacity and you're taking care of someone, you have this obligation to find out what's the very best thing for them and to provide it. And as a mom, it really gets exhausting, especially with all of the experts that are out there, and they are experts and they do a fantastic job. But it starts to feel really overwhelming. You get supplement recommendations, diet recommendations, a certain greens powder, and then you see that that's not the best greens powder because of X, Y, and Z. And then there's another thing and another thing. And not only are you spending a lot of money, you're spending a lot of time researching it, and you're spending a lot of your emotional availability. And we really only have so much capacity in a day with our time, with our mind, with our emotions, with our decision making too, especially if you're a professional or a caregiver, a mother, or something like that. You get mentally depleted just trying to figure out which way to go. And that is wellness fatigue. And that is what we're combating with the power of habit stacking. So something new in the realm of wellness fatigue that I experienced when I became a new mom about 2.5 years ago to our daughter Annie was that suddenly not only was I relying on, all of the information at my fingertips to have the best wellness routine for myself and the best supplements and the best diet for my blood type, or maybe not, I don't know still, was that I suddenly had this, precious, beautiful new soul and new body to take care of. And not only that, but they couldn't talk. So I wasn't really sure what was working. And when our daughter was born, she was a couple of weeks early. And as she grew up, she started experiencing eczema and all of these, GI issues. And unfortunately, our pediatrician just wasn't able to come up with a solution that I was okay with to combat that. I wasn't really comfortable putting steroid cream on her. I know that there's a lot of risks with that, to each their own. Sometimes it's completely necessary. But for her, she was in a lot of pain. And, I knew in my gut that for her, it was a gut issue. And I went down the rabbit hole. Any mom that has gone down the rabbit hole for your child, you will feel this in your bones. It's a lot of responsibility because, especially if they can't talk yet, you don't know what's working, and you have to rely on your gut and your instincts, and maybe a holistic practitioner here or there could help out, but it's not a traditional pathway. And there are a lot of experts, there are a lot of success stories. I was in different Facebook groups seeing what worked for other moms, and us as a community, we're combating our children's health issues. Now, That's a topic for a different episode, but it led to extreme wellness fatigue for me. We tried different diets, different supplements, and we finally found something that worked. But guess what? It doesn't work for every single child who experiences, in this case, eczema. Thank God we found out what worked for us, and we were able to, do the right things, but only after spending a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money on different things to make it work. And, that's just one small example. That's if your child has some kind of health issue like ours did. But, if you're just wanting to optimize and you have all of these resources and you don't know where to turn, it gets really exhausting. So, I don't think that we're meant to live in fear. In fact, I know we're not. I think that it's very good to stay very grateful in the present moment and to really lean into your gut feeling, your spirit feeling on these types of issues. And with all the experts that we have, it gets really exhausting. So if we, I think as a community, could just start with these micro changes and give ourselves grace, because I think that that is a really foundational part of wellness that people don't talk about enough, is giving yourself grace, living in grace, and knowing that it really is going to be okay. And if you take those steps forward, and for us, we take them, we take our steps in faith, and there's a big spiritual side to what we do. But I think that people don't talk enough about grace and wellness. And my husband and I were actually just talking about this a couple of days ago, where we had a situation, something that we were kind of trying to overcome and work through together. And he looked at me and he said, "Maddie, you're not giving yourself any grace. You are not filling yourself with love in this moment. Like, you are looking at something that is completely 5 years down the line, this really big, almost unmeasurable goal for yourself, and you are trying to hold yourself accountable to it by tomorrow. And in doing that, it's great to have big goals, and we should all be working towards something. But in doing that, I actually filled myself with doubt, with hate, with fear, and it's counterproductive. You're not able to achieve your goals whenever you're filled with those things. And so, grace could be your habit stack. That can be part of the mindful intentions that you start doing in the car with your kids, or in your what went well talks with your spouse. And just having that layer of grace, I think, will be really important. And now that doesn't detract from the goal. You and I, we both want to level up. That's why we're here together today. But giving yourself that layer of love and grace, it's absolutely foundational to seeing actual change in your life. So the whole point of this is to start small, because as we learned through that pilot example, one small shift, it will change the course of your life, especially if you have consistency and grace while you're doing it. Try with just a 5-minute meditation while you're driving back from the school after you've dropped off your kid, and get your girlfriends in on it, get your neighbors in on it, get your family in on it, and, talk to them about it and implement it together, and use it as a way to try out new things. Maybe you try out meditation 1 month, maybe the next month it's no caffeine, maybe the next month it's, a different greens powder. But I think that if we create, a sense of energy and enlightenment and positivity around it, instead of, I have to do this or I have to do that. I think that really helps change the frame of mind that you're in to, I get to do this and I'm excited to do that. And, bringing in that sense of community, not only does it help raise their vibration and make them a better person, but it also helps your relationships, and you're improving in that area. That alone is a habit stack, is bringing relationships into the new, wellness activities that you're trying. As you practice these new micro habits, these new habit stacks, the cool thing is that it's actually rewiring your brain. And you'll hear me mention Joe Dispenza a lot. That's because I'm a huge Joe Dispenza fan. I think his methods are fantastic. His meditations are really impactful. And he talks a lot about, the neuroscience behind everything. And if you haven't heard his story, I would definitely look him up. It's phenomenal. But as you do these new things each day, you are rewiring your brain and you're creating new synapses. And not only are you changing the way you think, you're changing the way you actually exist biologically. It's very impactful. It's very impressive. And it's something that we shouldn't look over, As you get a month or 2 months into doing something, just knowing like, hey, not only am I changing my mind, but I'm actually changing like my mind, my brain. It's really cool. And we forget how much power we have as the co-creators of our life. And it's really cool. So one of my favorite sayings is life is happening for you, not to you. And remember, just start small. Try out one new habit stack and see how you feel in 30 days. And if you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments below. I would love to learn from you all different wellness habits or things that you're implementing. And we'll talk next time. And that's a wrap on today's episode. If you loved this conversation, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs it. You can find us on Instagram at Soak Podcast for more inspiration and wellness insights. Thanks for being here. And until next time, keep tuning into what truly matters.